Hey, this is Nate from Sacinfobros. So we've been going to the city council for about, I don't know, a couple months now. And every time we go down there, we see these weird sculptures and statues and things. Just this weird art all over the city hall building. And it just seems kind of random, kind of out of place. And can't quite put your finger on it at first, but it just kind of seems kind of bizarre. And well, every time I go down there, I take a little closer look at it, uh, kind of uh, pick up on something new each time. And so after about the fifth or sixth time or so, on top of doing a little bit extra research on my own, starts to kind of make sense. So the first bizarre thing is that the city, uh, the city hall is actually built on top of an ancient Indian burial ground. I'm not joking. Like if you read the dedication, the plaque out front, it's straight out of Poltergeist. And the most obvious sculpture is right out front. It's a giant basket looking thing, and it's originally designed to have water flowing around it. And so this big basket, it's called the burden basket, and it's supposedly, I mean, it is modeled after the Miwok baskets, the Miwok style woven baskets that they would, carry food and stuff in. And it's got this weird, these weird triangle patterns uh, all around the side of it. But I think those are actually uh, coincidentally, maybe not, uh, Miwok tribe patterns for the Miwok tribe. Anyways, but uh, if you go around and read the on the other side of it and read the actual inscription, it's not just called the burden basket. It's actually called the sacred bowl or the moon bowl. And so the moon bowl has some significance. And it's not just the inscription that reads moon bowl. If you go look up the construction company that actually uh, built the thing, they've referred to it as the moon bowl as well. And the Arts Commission refers to it as the moon bowl. Everybody refers to it as the moon bowl, not the burden basket. And so the moon bowl is something used in different pagan rituals. There's so many different versions of this. The moon bowl ritual. Basically, you have a bowl full of water, and you use it to catch the moonlight and reflect the moonlight. Uh, basically, a common theme in different pagan beliefs is this that the moon is actually the moon goddess, uh, or is a representation of the moon goddess. And so the moon bowl ceremony is basically you're like either divining some sort of knowledge from the moon goddess, or you're calling upon the moon goddess. And if you read the rest of the inscription or the description from the construction company, they also describe that it's not just the big moon bowl right out front, directly across from the new city hall building. There's actually two smaller moon bowls, one on either side of the old city hall building. And again, they don't refer to them as burden baskets, and the smaller ones don't look like burden baskets. They look like pagan moon bowls. And if you go to the artist who designed them, you look through his work, he does several other pieces that are titled Moon Bowl, for various people. I don't know who he did them for, but you could see there's several other examples that look identical to the ones on either side of the old City Hall building, and they're all called moon bowls. And the fact that there are 3 of them total, that's also a significant number in reference or in the context of the whole moon goddess theme, because usually what you find is that there's a trinity of the moon goddess. You have, and it's based on, it comes from the fact that you have the 3 phases of the moon. You have the waxing quarter moon, the full moon, and the waning quarter moon. And so you have basically like different phases of the moon goddess's life. And it's like, the full phases of the moon is basically the moon goddess regenerating or whatever. The waxing quarter moon is usually represented by the maiden, the young woman, and then the full moon is usually represented by the mother, and then the waxing quarter moon is represented by the crone or the hag, basically the old woman. And again, I doubt this is a coincidence now, although the first few times I go down there, it seems like, oh, maybe it's just coincidence. But when you start putting all these pieces together, I doubt this is a coincidence. But directly south of the City Hall building, in the park, Cesar Chavez Park, right there, right in the middle, there's this fountain. And the fountain, it's got this carvings all along it, and there's these 3. It's 3 carvings of women. So basically, 3 women carved along the face, all around the face of this fountain. You can see in this video here. And so if you look closely to the position of the women, you have one that's turned halfway in one direction, which is representing the waxing quarter moon, the maiden form of the moon goddess. Then the middle one is facing forward, which represents the full moon, or the mother incarnation of the moon goddess. And then lastly, you have the woman turned the opposite direction, facing halfway, which represents the waxing quarter moon, or the waning quarter moon, or the crone version of the moon goddess. And water plays a part in this, in that too, because it's obviously a fountain, so it would reflect the moonlight and sort of capture the essence of the moon goddess. And so these 4 structures obviously surround the old City Hall building. I admit I don't specifically know what the reason for that is, because I haven't actually been into the old City Hall building to take a look around yet. That's what I'm going to do next, probably. And why am I talking about the moon goddess? Well, what time are the City Hall, City Council meetings? What time do they take place? You could go look at the agendas online. They take place in the evening. They start at 6. They usually run until, at least 8 or 9 at night. So these are meetings taking place at night. And again, I admit I don't know exactly how the old City Hall building, comes into play here. But I could tell you, just looking around the outside, there are some weird looking sculpture work around the outside of that building. And obviously it's got the dome in the style of Greco-Roman temples. So who knows, maybe that's, built to be like a temple of to the moon goddess or something. And that basically sums it up for the outside. And then moving into the new city uh, City Hall building. That's where the actual meetings take place. Right there in the lobby, there is another unusual sculpture, and it's actually, I mean, it's one piece of art, but it's split up into two, basically two sculptures, one on one side of the lobby and one on the other side. And again, it just seems random, kind of odd, out of place. Like, what does this have to do with the city government, you know? And so you go and look closely, and each part of the sculpture has an inscription. The one reads, "Alone we stand in the landscape of our perception," and the other reads, "The landscape, like our shadow, is the creation of presence." And so if you look at these sculptures, they're basically mirror images of each other. One is lightly colored, and the other's on the opposite side, it's darkly colored, it's black. And so I looked up the artist who did the sculpture. His name is Kurt Steger. It's pretty easy to find online. And you know, look at his work, and he's pretty open about the fact that he's into basically Native American shamanism, which again, I generalize and just say that, okay, that's one specific type of paganism. And because, I mean, if you look all through the history of paganism, I mean, all the way back to, you know, you read Tacitus at the, you know, in the first century, the Roman Empire. He talks about how the Germans, ancient Germans up in northern Europe, were worshiping Roman gods and Egyptian gods. They were even worshiping Isis. And so, I mean, this sort of mixed match of different pagan beliefs and gods and goddesses and so forth, kind of, it's been going on for thousands of years. So I just kind of generalize and call them all, you know, different types of paganism. And so he's openly into paganism, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, you know, necessarily. Actually, seems like, you know, pretty nice guy. And I actually contacted him. He emailed me right back. I asked him about, you know, what his inspirations were, and he told me he was, you know, inspired basically by the landscape, the mountains, the trees, and you could tell he's telling the truth. That kind of reflects in the sculpture. It looks like mountains and trees, and even you could kind of interpret it. Some of that as a river going through there. And you know, the point isn't that paganism is bad in itself. It's the fact that the people in the government commission all this pagan artwork specifically. That's what I find suspicious, because the people in power aren't openly pagan. So I get suspicious of people who are, you know, secretly into this occult stuff. You know, I have no problem with people who are openly into shamanism or druidism or any of that stuff. Or, you know, even people who are openly Wiccans, I don't even have a problem with that. You know, yeah, obviously, I'm a Christian, so I think they're misguided, but they don't, you know, I don't think they're outwardly, you know, evil to the core or anything. And so, you know, with that in mind, looking at the inscriptions that go along with the artwork, you know, on the surface I can see how they can be interpreted as just, you know, as an individual, we're on our own spiritual path. But you can also kind of interpret it from more like an Illuminati type of perspective of and like more of a a black magic type of perspective of, the individual can exert his will on the world and actually, change the landscape by exerting his will, by force, basically. Or, if you believe this through magic, or, that's what they believe at least, if you read their own writings. And by they, I mean, people who are into this occult stuff, like Adam Weishaupt, the founder of the Bavarian Illuminati, or if you read the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey, he's into black magic, or the writings of Aleister Crowley. These people are all into exerting your will on the world. And, they have their whole motto of, the Aleister Crowley motto of do what thou wilt. That's really a magician's creed, basically. I don't mean like a parlor trick magicians pulling rabbits out of hats. I mean someone who's a practitioner of magic. Like an old Wiccan sort of motto or creed is, do what thou wilt, as long as you don't hurt anybody. But still, that whole aspect of exerting your will and changing the world through the use of magic. And I mean, I don't know the specifics about what Kurt Steger believes in, but it could have that aspect to it as well. And looking at the sculptures and in the reading in the inscription as well, you see this light plays a role. The sculpture kind of gives the effect of, if there's a light source shining on the trees and the mountains, it creates, the shadow of a tree and the shadow of a mountain on the other side. And the inscription even mentions, our shadows are the creation of a presence, and the landscape is a creation of a presence. I don't know exactly how Kurt Steger meant it, but if you interpret it from the Illuminati perspective, light basically represents knowledge, specifically like forbidden knowledge. Going back to Adam and Eve, and eating the forbidden fruit of the tree of knowledge. And it might seem like I'm kind of going all over the place here, Christianity and Satanism and witchcraft and druids and shamans, but I mean, it's all related if you really study this stuff. And it's related to the government too, which is why I've been studying it. Because, I mean, what does the government do? They exert their will on the rest of us. It's not out of the blue that throughout history, all the way back to the earliest recorded history we have, the elites that come to power either start off as being into the occult, or they end up that way. Ancient Babylonians, Egyptians, the Roman emperors, and modern day, our leaders today at the top. And so who's to say that the leaders at the city, the state level here in California aren't into that stuff too. And something else really bizarre that I noticed, but if you look at the floor of the lobby, it actually looks like the shape of an eye. Like you have this circle in the middle, like the iris, and then it's that sort of oval type of shape, almond type of shape of an eye. If you kind of step back and It might be kind of hard to see in the pictures, but if you go down there, you could kind of see what I'm talking about. That's just kind of bizarre, the all-seeing eye Illuminati symbol there, right in the layout of the floor. So out front you have this whole setup for moon goddess rituals, and basically calling upon the moon goddess, the light of the moon goddess, which can be interpreted as, as insight, wisdom, guidance, whatever. And then you go inside the building and there's all this talk about, shaping the landscape, basically kind of along the same lines of using the light, the knowledge, to change the shape of change the landscape. And how about, your perception kind of can shape reality. Which is, that's basically the foundation of any type of system of magic. Which, I mean, I don't buy into that, but according to them, if you read all the writings, it's the idea that, reality isn't set in stone. Like, by exerting your will on your surroundings, you can actually change it just by sheer force of will and proper application of forbidden occult knowledge about different rituals and blah blah blah, all that, hocus pocus that I don't believe in, but there's obviously a lot of people who do. And again, I'm not saying that everybody on the city council or everybody who works for the city is into occultism or magic or any of that. I'm just saying that from the looks of it, there are some people in positions of influence who probably are. I mean, it's pretty hard to accidentally set up 3 moon bowls around a building that looks like a Greco-Roman temple across the street from one direction from a fountain with a female trinity on the fountain, and then across the street on the other side, if you haven't seen my other video about the California EPA headquarters, right across the street from the city hall to the east is a giant stone circle and a sacred grove in the style of the Druids. So I mean, the city hall building is just surrounded by all this occult symbolism. And I'm not saying that I got all the answers here. I'm just basically sharing my perspective, my insight, and I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are. And stay tuned for more videos like this. So this is Nate from Sacramento. Say thanks for watching. Subscribe, and share it with your friends.
Yes, these men and their hypnotized followers call this a new order. It is not new, and it is not order.